I just like being with you guys. You guys are really exceptional listeners, and that will always be, especially if you can be a trusted listener. There's a big difference. I was on an interview with a guy, podcast interview, where he mentioned, I don't want to be my kid's friend. I want to be their dad, and I think instead of saying that, even I would say I don't want to be my kid's friend. I want to be their trusted listener, which doesn't have an attachment of dad or this relationship. It just is a trusted listener that I've created space for specifically.
Well, I think that's an issue
Anyway.
like a lot of us has grown up with is, some of us that have daddy issues, like our dad was full-time work mode, like wasn't really there. And so that's why we all are growing up now. I'm like, all right, what do we do? And so, yeah, that's a good thing. Cause even with my son recently, it's always, he just wants to hang out, play video games. Like, buddy, listen, I'm your dad. I'm here for you. But like, I don't want to play video games all the time. Listen, you can go do it with your friends. But at the same time, like, I need to find that place where it's not like it'd be like my dad, where it's like, all right, he doesn't want to do anything with me. We need to find that moment. And like you said, just to be a good listener and be there for my son. So that way, when he's older, he wants to come back home. And because, dad will listen.
The ultimate thing is having my kids want to hang out with me, and even so, like having their friends over at our house, and they all want to hang around. It is the ultimate compliment as a dad, and I don't know how old your guys' kids are. I have one that just got home from a mission 8 months ago. She's 21. I have one that's 18, and I have one that's almost 16. And they're like always wanting to be around me, and they really are my best friends, but also my relationship with them, as it evolves, develops. I used to be more that, I am your dad, and this and that, as you trying to teach correct principles. But now I'm at the point where I'm on the other side of the statement, let them govern themselves. Mentality where I can just see the work that I did before. I can see the mistakes that I made before and how I failed forward through them. And then now it's manifesting through just very cool, very transparent, very, laid back, not laid back to the point where it's lazy, but laid back where I can just take a step back and be just thankful and just be grateful now.
It's that moment where we're like, yep, I did it right.
Yep.
Yeah, bros.
Jasmine and my wife and I were talking about actually last night, just being able to, one, create that safe place for your kids so they can come back. They know that, they can talk to you about anything and there's no judgments. There's no like, you're going to yell at them. You're just going to be that, like you said, active listener. Just tell me everything that's going on in your life. If you want advice, I'll give you the advice. As they get older, that what you said, like let them govern themselves, like it's the fact that you taught them well enough to get through the consequences of life, to get through, like, make the right decisions. I think for me growing up in a religious home, I was told all the things not to do. They didn't trust me with anything to make those decisions on my own, or that they taught me well enough to think on my own. And so getting into adulthood, like now I have to think on my own. I'm like, I don't know how to do this because, like, one, it was like they thought for me, but two, like, yeah. So just being able to trust the process, trust that you did it right, and trust that God's going to lead them in the right direction. Like, I think a lot of times we don't let God be God. We want to take control of things, and we just got to let go. Like, let go and let God. I know that's a cliche like saying, but that's honestly what you have to do with your kids.
Yeah, very real. And I think there is another side of, that communication with our kids. What I've learned is that you have to even to get to the step to be an trusted listener, you have to be what I would describe as a proactive question asker. And it's got to be there got to be good questions. They got to be the conversation starters. I don't know if you guys have read that book. It's awesome. It's by Jefferson Fisher. It's called um, Starting a Conversation, I think. And it's not that long of a book, but it's how to argue effectively and kindly, and how to ask really good questions in difficult moments. Um, I read it and just to help me with my groups, but I was like, dude, this is going to help me with just freaking life with my kids and you know things like that. And so I've learned that, man, if you instead of just the standard "How was your day?" it's "Tell me about this." So the way you start the question,
Mhm.
it's just to not ask yes or no, just to not ask the ones that are just the standard. And it's also what I teach to women who are asking, how do I get my man to open up a little bit? I'm like, the best thing to do is to start with, tell me about this. I admire the way you handled this. Tell me how you went through that. Things that you're starting with a compliment and then it's leading to a question, which then starts opening up stuff. And then so, if you're be an active, intentional, trusted listener, you gotta have to listen to something, And so if they're not opening up, especially these kids, bro, they're not opening up, it's because they think you either don't care, you're not listening, or that in the past that they've been, discarded what they've said and what
Mm.
they've shared,
Mm.
which is very similar to the reason why men don't open up. These our kids are internalizing things. Well, if my parents are not going to support me, then I'll just support me, or my friends will listen and support me. It's very close, bros, to the data we have on men. Why they don't open up is very similar to the way that these kids are thinking in those teen years, those volatile, chaotic, freaking emotions that are developing, in their brains and in their hearts. And so, yeah, for me, what has been super successful is being able to ask difficult questions and have my kids be able to give difficult answers,
Mm.
and me be able to handle those answers, to hold the space that I have with my kids. It's sacred space. It's this space that you develop. I tell the guys in group, this space is like dedicated, set apart, whatever you want to call it, as sacred space for vulnerability and sharing. My kids know the space that we have between us. It's sacred. It makes me cringe when I hear guys tell me about like stuff that's happening with their wives and stuff that like or like negative, like just like I'm like, do they know that you're talking about this? Do your kids do you have your kids' permission to share some of this stuff? It just makes me hurt a little bit for those people because it isn't a sacred space. Clearly, it's not been treated as such, or started and nurtured as such. And so, I I do really lean into that, using that exact verbiage. This is sacred space, and those words are powerful to people. That you can trust me. And let's start there, and let's start with some simple, difficult questions. And then take the answers, for what they are, and own the answers. Even if they're hurtful to you, bro. Own the answers, own the emotions that are where they're coming from. And then, dude, let's just start there, man.
Well, I think that's like a lot of parents, like when you say that, I think they don't want to own those emotions because kids are truthful, unfortunately, and they will tell us things we don't want to hear about ourselves. And then as soon as we hear it, a lot of the times it just triggers that, all right, I don't want to hear this crap. And they just stop listening to their kids. When in honesty, that's how we're going to grow as parents, is by listening to our kids, because they're telling us what we need to hear, you know?
Mm, amen. Amen.
Mhm.
That's a good word, man. Yeah. And I think we're products of, of course, our parents, their goods and their bads, and we try to take the best from each and try to piece together a freaking Voltron, Power Ranger, something of a dad in ourselves, parent. And then, but a part of that Voltron isn't so great, that we're inheriting, and, that we've been kind of programmed to be. And then the difficult part of them being able to tell us, hey, that Voltron, that tiger on your arm, that lion on your arm ain't working, bro. It's hurting my feelings. It's, I don't like it. And, for me to be like, dude, I got to cut this arm off. I got to redevelop some new muscle in certain places of my life and in parenting. And I think we don't want to hear. It's tough to hear that stuff. We don't want to freaking hear that you're wrong. You know, isn't that tough for you guys to hear, man? That's wrong. You hurt my feelings. Walls come up, defensive. This, that, and the other.
Yeah, and instead of getting defensive too, like it's about validating their emotions, because their emotions, regardless of like what you intended or how you wanted it to go, it doesn't make their feelings go away or their emotions go away. Their emotions are real and they're valid. So it's like validating, like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry that like I made you feel that way. Here's what I meant by what I said. I never meant to hurt you. So I apologize that I came across that way. And I'm going to do better moving forward on how I communicate, my body language, the words I use. But in, a lot of us, like, whoa, I didn't say it like that. Your thinking's all wrong. And you start to, once they know that their feelings won't be validated, they don't want to come to you. They'll go to their friends who will validate their emotions. Oh my gosh, he said that to you? He made you feel that way? Forget that guy. That's exactly what the friends are going to say. They're going to validate their emotions. So us as dads, we need to be that safe place where they can come to us with their emotions and we say, you know what? You're right. Like, I mean, I didn't mean for that to come across that way, but it is. Like my 4-year-old going on 5, he will call me out on things. Dad, it's not cool to yell. You know what, buddy? You're right. I got to take a step back. Like, oh my gosh, I am yelling. I am getting frustrated. Dad, you need to take a deep breath. Oh, you're right, buddy. I do need to take a deep breath. So it's cool. Like your kids will be the most raw with you, and that's what we need. We don't need people sugarcoating things so that the other person will feel better about themselves. You need to tell me how you're feeling so that I know, so that we can make this relationship better.
Yeah, good word. I mean, what are the 3 most difficult things, men? I'm sorry. I love you. I was wrong. And I need help. Those 4 things are probably the most difficult things for us as men to say, and to be able to have, especially, I mean, 4 years old, they can say, they just about get away with anything, saying, but at least he's getting away with saying things that are pretty true, and then he'll learn grace as he gets older. Right. He'll learn empathy, and then it will start hopefully, developing into suddenly you just got this guy who's just emotionally in control. And I have a question that I pose, an icebreaker for each group, just to start conversation, and one that I love to ask all the groups is, describe in only using 3 words what a man should be. Just 3 single words, no hyphens, no nothing. Give me 3 words. There's so many, and it's a very difficult question. So it forces these guys to, and I give them a minute to think about just 3 individual words to describe what the perfect man would be. And the ones that, the ones that always come up for me, because there's again, it's so difficult. But for me, the ones that always come up is kind, driven, and disciplined. Those 3 things for me. People, well, they throw in love. They throw in so many, respectful, hard working or whatever. There's so many to choose, and none of them are wrong. Really, for me. But then it makes me evaluate. Okay, am I those 3 things? I ask, how close are you, to being those? What are you doing? What work are you putting in to be those 3 things? Can you describe yourself with those 3 words? And so, being, a recovery alcoholic, um, discipline is that's what I think of. Not discipline as in I'm gonna smack you around or that kind. Obviously, that has you want to be disciplined that way, but discipline more from the fact that I have control over my emotions. I have control over my habits, and those things. Of course, I love the word kind. To me, that emphasizes love. It kind of insinuates love in its own way. But then I have the word driven for me too, just because I want to get up and get going to do good. Actively, proactively doing good in the world and as a parent in the home and whatnot. And so it's something maybe you guys can think about right now and see if you guys can give me three words that you'd like to be just from my example, of giving them. There's no wrong answers, and I think, but the idea is, to ask it up front. What do you,
Yeah.
what are the three words? And then afterwards, it's like, how close are you guys to being those three? Would you describe yourself as those three things? And for me, it's I'm actively working on. I think discipline is what I do now. I have a very good control over many things that I did not have control over in my life that I had that we need to have control over. I have, as far as kindness, it's increased dramatically through my work with I Love You Bro Project and the constant hearing of broken hearts and the constant having a broken heart, being humbled. It's been helping with being kind to others. And then the drive part probably is where I need the most work. Being able to be driven in all aspects of my life, and not just as a parent, and not just as a needs to be there for physical fitness. Needs to be there. Just I was attached to discipline. That drive to be better in every aspect of my life.
Yeah, I can go first. I would say present, because that's
Ooh,
something growing up that my dad wasn't. I want to make sure that I'm present in all aspects and show my kids that.
I love that. Love.
I think drive too. I think I can work a little bit more on drive, but I feel like everything I put myself into, I try and tend to put all myself into it. So I think drive, and then for the third, honest, I guess I think I would use, because if you go through life just spouting out non-facts, that would suck, and I feel like I tend to just tell people me. I want to be me everywhere, not, oh, this is a different guy on the podcast than he is being a dad. So just
Yeah. So some transparency there.
Yeah,
Awesome.
for me, one word, and this is because I grew up in a chaotic home, but peaceful. Like I want there to be so much peace in the home that, yeah, peaceful.
Well, that's awesome.
Loving. Obviously, like I just want to love my kids and Jasmine. So my kids' names, I like to say their names because I don't like to just call them my kid. So Jasmine, Nathaniel, Elijah, and Rylan, because they're all their own identity.
Yes.
And then just confidence. So I know growing up and well into adulthood, even still now, I don't walk around with as much confidence as I should. And I was just telling Jasmine this just the other night, actually, that part of my well, one, I didn't know I had ADHD until I was basically 30. I found I had ADHD. Well, that came with a lot of masking over the years because I thought, you know, man, people don't seem like they're struggling as much as I am, but I have to keep up with them. So I just masked everything. And that turned into people pleasing. So I would, just to fit in with everybody, I would, become a chameleon and I'd fit in wherever. And everybody, wow, this feels good. People are liking me. And so now, to, present day, I find myself kind of not wanting to be confident in who I am because I don't want to come across cocky or, want somebody to think I'm arrogant and not like me. But that's something that I am actively working on right now. And today, like confidence, just knowing who I am. We're our own worst critic. But Jasmine brought up to me, she's like, the one thing I dislike about you the most is the fact that you're positive when it comes to everybody else. When it comes to you, you're the most negative person in the entire world. And it hit hard because I'm like, you're right. I tell myself, oh, I'm a terrible dad. I'm this, I'm that. People give me a compliment. I think they're just projecting their own self onto me. So I take the compliment and throw it right back to them. Like, oh, you're a handsome guy. Oh, thank you. I just like throw it back to him. Yeah, you're handsome.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to take that compliment. I don't believe that about myself. And so now it's about taking compliments, saying thank you. And you're like, you're right. I play the bass for my church. So people say, oh, you're a great bass player. And now I'm taking like, oh, you know what? I am a great bass player. You're right. I do have a set of skills that I'm appreciative that you're noticing it. And just that kind of where I'm at. That was a long-winded question to what you were asking, but
It's awesome, man.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's where I'm at today. Yeah.
No, I think it sparks conversation, and so we have these. Most of my icebreaker questions that I ask the groups come from conversations that I've had with my kids. So we'll have, as they get a little older, your kids, they start so sharp. They know what's going on. And, as they get older, they just get smarter and smarter. Which it puts sometimes us knuckleheads at a disadvantage. But we'll have these debates, arguments about very good, kind debates on things like this. Well, okay, well, if you could only, we love the 3-word thing. So we'll say, if you could only describe, a perfect marriage, what you want in a marriage, or your spouse, list 3 things that you want in your spouse that are 1 word. And then we're having this conversation like me and my kids, like we're having here. And then you find yourself, wow, we're sharing a lot. It's not even, it left the question a long time ago. We're actually talking about other things at the same time that we're having this conversation. So again, another great thing to have in our toolbox as men is to be able to ask really good questions that spawn great conversation. And then we're doing so many things at one time. We're building a better relationship with our kids. We're building trust, and we're opening space and creating space that's sacred. And then we ourselves are finding more value in ourselves. From, man, I am a good dad. I am a good, look at this. Look what I just did. I just had this awesome conversation with my kids. Or look at this. I just apologized to my kid when I was wrong. I admitted it, and wow, look at what I did right there. That makes, I am a good dad. I am failing forward. And so again, I like what you were saying, bro. It's like I am a good bass player. I do have qualities that everyone else can see, but freaking me. And I know you guys remember probably from our last conversation. I think, right. I haven't checked the numbers, but I think we're probably 75%. Of the men who come into our groups, the number one challenge, 75% is self-hate, negative self-talk about ourselves. So if we're talking about that, 7.5 of these dudes out of 10 are doing exactly that. They cannot own any part of a compliment. They cannot for themselves. And they're so quick. These guys are, 9 of them are just rallying around the one. Oh, you were just amazing. You're incredible. Pointing out all their, qualities and all the great things about them, and then the one just, I don't get it. Thanks, guys. Can't take a compliment, can't take absorb that. They feel the love, but they can't feel it necessarily for themselves. Yeah, and so the idea that we have permission to love ourselves, man. we have permission when we should give permission to love ourselves a little bit more. And I think in society, it's like, oh, you love yourself. Oh, someone who says they're so arrogant. They're so what a douchebag. You know what I'm saying? Like, if people
Yeah.
say that, when like, why can't you just look at that as in like, thank you, Jesus. Some of us can love ourselves, and are at least somewhat proud enough that we can say, you know what, I am a good person. I'm not as bad as I think that I am. I am freaking human. I'm not a freaking robot, like I actually have emotions and I can identify them, recognize them, and I can own them. Like, that's valuable. That's such a valuable knowledge that we can have, is that like we're like men are that they might have joy, not freaking men are that they might be freaking miserable all the time,
Mm.
And I think when we hear it from other men, it connects on a whole new level. It's like hearing "I love you" from your wife. Correct me if I'm wrong, fellas. Your wife says, "Oh, I love you, honey," and you're like, "Oh, I love you too." And then it's lots of times it's just that.
Mm-hmm.
It hits a little differently when your kids say it. It's I think for me, it's the next level. Oh, I love you too. Yeah, yeah. To me, it's like that's probably the apex of it. But when you actually have another dude, a bro who you literally are having this vulnerable, awesome conversation, and you're both connecting on this level that it's very rare for men to have, but you're really super connected, and then at the end you're like, you know what, man, I love you, bro. It resonates at a level that a spouse cannot. I don't. It's not their fault. They cannot provide. It's just a different type, that connection, brotherly connection. There's a love behind it that cannot be duplicated or manufactured. From social media, or from if we were having this conversation, if we were all three of us were together having this conversation, it would just multiply by when we're in person. But it is something that a lot of us are lacking. You guys who have, like, you two, obviously you love each other as brothers. You wouldn't be doing this if you didn't. Honestly, I wouldn't be. There's no chance that I would be able to do something like you guys are doing and not absolutely love the bro that I'm doing it with. And so, uh, if we can s- start by saying some of that stuff, and start by saying, like guys say, you say it all, you say it to everybody, Joe. It doesn't mean anything, right? It me every single time I say it. Ever since that overpass, bro, it's it's meant something different. And so for me, I will say it. I will say it to all these guys, and I'll say it to you guys, and I'll say it to anyone who's listening. I do. I love you, bro. It's a connection that I have, that God is so great for me, that He put me in a situation where my heart could grow 3 sizes that day, and not to say I was a Grinch before that, but to a point where, like, why can't we just be a little bit more vulnerable with each other, connect on an awesome level, and have that be something normal?
I think something
Yeah.
DJ uses that we were taught, our youth pastor taught us growing up, was he would always say, "I love you, God loves you, and there's nothing you can do about that." And so he started saying that at the end of our podcast now. He started using that more. So that's something we've grown up with too. His name was Eddie Johnson, amazing man. And so that was something we were brought up with our youth pastor, that kind of instilled in us, that love is, first off, is unconditional. Secondly, like, you don't have to be related. You don't have to be in relationship with someone. Like, you can like just love somebody because you love them. Like, I think that's something that's gotten mixed up in society nowadays. Like, oh, you love that guy? Like, no, yeah, I do. Generally, I love
Yeah.
that man.
Yeah. You got a problem with it?
Right.
I mean, that's me. Yeah. Of course I do. It's like that's such a douche comment. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and we have those guys, those lions, not sheep guys, who kind of like, like a gym bro dude. And I'll tell you, the lions that we have that come into our support groups, which are many, they are the first ones leaning on our sheep, on us sheep. And there are some values and attributes about sheep, if that's what you want to call us, um, that are spectacular and meant to be, God given. That we herd together, man. Like we're not volatile. God did it. The good shepherd doesn't lead lions. He leads sheep, and so uh, when you have a mentality where it's yeah, it's an intimidator it's divisive between men who okay, this is alpha male mentality, and if you're not thinking kill, lead, destroy whoever gets in your way, step on them. That's so freaking unhealthy. And I don't naturally have that instinct, I am. If I were to describe anything, I would be absolutely. I would take the sheep over the lion. You can have lions have some good qualities, a few that you would love to have, the strength and the pride of behind, like the compassion. You want to have the power, I should say, of the lion, but man, I want almost nothing else. It's lazy. Women do all the work. It's gives up easy in a lot of ways. Like we could go off about that, but the idea that in society, I, I'm the first one who starts crying, and I'm the first one who shows their emotions. And how is that in any form? Like, how can that be the idea that we can conceive that as weakness? And that is like the ultimate connector. We're talking about support groups that are full of strangers, and who are the consistency between them is that they all have broken hearts, and they're all struggling, like all of us, you know, with something or many things. So I'm the first one. Bend don't break, Joe. No, I'm broken, and I'm beautifully broken. That's the way. What did they say? I love the line. It's like, the cracks are how the light get in, man. And so we in our support groups, I picture all these guys as they're Aaron on the ledge. Do I go up to Aaron and say, "Hey, bro, lion's not sheep"?
Gosh.
Or do I go up to Aaron and I say, "Hey, I hate the one that says no one's coming to save you"? I get where they're going with some of these. I get where they're trying to go, I should say. Some of this. There's other language you can use, far healthier, that than no one's coming to save you. Imagine if I said that to Aaron on the overpass, and then see you, bro. I'm out. No, like you could say better things, way more helpful things to show support and love for another. And so, just even in this conversation, I'm sure it's happened many times with you guys where you guys start sharing something, and you're like, "Wow, I didn't really mean to share that. Maybe I'll edit it out later." But that deeper thing that was shared, it resonated through, and it was so impactful on you and, the guy or whoever you're interviewing. And then you leave that conversation like, ah, okay, yeah, yeah, I'm glad that I talked about that, or I'm glad that I shared that, because then it inspired him to say something from his broken heart, and then had this symbiotic relationship suddenly between the three of us. It's so beautiful, man. Why wouldn't you want to have that type of conversation?
Yeah, I agree. Some of that you were saying, I think when it comes like lions, not sheep, I think a lot of people who identify like as a lion, they have lived their life in the wild, having to fend for themselves, having to. I've seen videos where lions will come to humans and they're like best friends almost. And it's like not that normal. You see, like, what am I watching right now? Is this real? Like, but what happens is once the lion knows that you're not there to attack them or be a predator, all of a sudden, because you're so gentle with them, they're gentle with you because they're like, oh, you just want to be my friend. You just want to like, and it's like, it's that gentle sheep, like that just like you feel comfortable with them. You're like, wait, I don't have to defend myself. You just want to listen to me. You just, wait, you understand what I'm going through? Like, and it's like you hug them. It's this, once that compassion and that gentleness overtakes the lion is just like, it was like a sheep dressed up in a lion's clothing. And I was like, I just want to be heard. I just want this healing. I don't want to have to fight anymore. And like you see it, like you've seen it in your group, like it's just like they get surrounded by these people that just care genuinely about who they are beyond the surface level. Like, I don't defend yourself. I want you to tell me why you're hurt and why you feel like you have to defend yourself,
Yeah.
because you're just a hurt person going
Great.
through life. And so I think that that's honestly where a lot of this movement comes from, is just we're in the wild trying to defend ourselves, and it's because we're hurt and we're broken. And I even, so there's this like song I listen to, and like they're talking about like a documentary or whatever. It's like a worship song, but then they're talking while there's like a live set. Anyways, and he was saying that they're doing a documentary and they're having like a potter, and they're like, just, tell us how, like, like God is the potter, right? And we're the clay. And like, what happens if like you put it in the fire and like, or like you drop it and it breaks? What happens? And then the potter was like, well, we just crush it up, grind it down, and use it again. And that's just like, it doesn't matter if you're broken. Like, you can still like become something beautiful. And it's just that whole picture of like, life doesn't have to stop when you're broken. You just can now decide, okay, what do I want to do with it? Where do I want to go? And then create that. So,
No, that's perfect, dude. I mean, I think it's called what is that? It's, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. The Japanese art. I think it's called kintsugi or something like that.
something like that.
Where,
Yeah.
yeah, where they take the broken pots or the broken bowl or whatever, and then they put it back together through using like silver or gold, and it's stronger than it was before. You know,
Yeah.
and that's very much. I mean, you're talking, spiritually, religiously, faithfully. We break bread. We God wants a broken heart, not a bent heart. The idea that we break ground,
Nice.
to start something new. There's so many, symbolic, mentions of like breaking things needing to break and being broken to be better. From muscles having to get stronger to, again, our hearts being able to be stronger and more lovable and humble and loving. And so, not that I hate on any of these guys, them. I do agree. I think a lot of them come from a very volatile upbringing. Something traumatic happened, and it's coming from a dangerous, hurt place. But I think the messaging is everything, for me. When a guy sees, he reads "lions, not sheep," then it's super divisive. And we know men are 80% of all suicides. 80. And so when a guy doesn't feel like he is a lion, then he's going to be a recluse, and then suddenly, in every way, and then suddenly he's lost all value and thinks he's a failure, and then he leaves our lives forever. A lot of them. And so I am passionate about messaging, positive messaging. Not to say, oh, well, everything's freaking, you know, ice cream and lollipops. It's not freaking Wonka's factory here, but it's one where we don't need to be so divisive in what we're trying, our point. What we're trying. Like, I love you, bro. Is called I love you, bro, simply because it's for me that's what was exactly needed at the time, and it just kind of collectively that message represents all that we're trying to do. And if lions not sheep is collectively what you're trying to do, I just don't. I bet you if he's on here, he would be like, well, it's more than that. It's this. I get it, but that's the message that men are hearing is just the lion's not sheep. No one's coming to save you. That's terrible. And again, take it back to the overpass. That's not going to help Aaron. Well, what we're trying to say is, well, then just save those things. Save those things. Make it simple for us men. We want simple structure, simple, consistent. That's what men want, and our data shows it. You give me some structured, simple messaging, it will resonate with me. That's just, I don't know about you guys, but it's just the way it works with men, the way we process. So if you're giving me it is structured and simple, lion's not cheap, it is catchy, that's going to resonate in one way or another with me. But if the product of that is what, well, lion's not cheap is, it's supposed to get guys, to come be better, be their best selves or whatever. There's a much better way to go about that, that shows brotherhood and love and support, and you are not alone. And I'll have the guys in group. We had a guy come in who said, he's had a pornography addiction. He's trying to kick, and he just craps on himself all the time because he'll have these little stints where he goes for a couple weeks, and then has a blip, and then suddenly he's back at hating himself again. And I said, man, just let's stop for a second, bro. Anyone who's ever watched pornography or had a pornography addiction, raise your hand. And we have like 14 guys in there. All 14 guys raising their hands. And so that what I love for me in my position is I literally can say, you are not alone.
Yeah.
Look in this room. We're barking and pounding our chest on, you are not alone. Social media and every other place. But for me, I'm able to show these guys, look at this. Me, myself included. You name it. And a lot of these go, well, and we can do that with many things, from loneliness to grief to many different addictions, divorce, all that stuff. How many of us, are really so sad right now? So sad for what every guy is raising their hand. And so there's so much power. Are you going to get that saying, hey, how many guys are lions, not sheep? I don't know how many guys are going to, they're going to want to raise their hand because everybody else, that's what they're expected to do. But if I were to ask that in my support groups, I'm not sure I get, many hands going up. And that's the way I want it. That's the way I'll take it. And I'm not just crapping on guys too. We have a lot of messaging from women as well. That's terrible. That the one that I hate the most that I'm going to be posted on soon is the happy wife, happy life mentality. And then people say, well, no, the counter to that is happy spouse, happy house. I'm like, that doesn't work either. For me, it's I cross off happy wife, happy life, and I just put love at home. And that is you talk about happy wife, that okay, we're all bending the knee to the happiness and joy of this family revolves around one person. That's not right, and very unhealthy. Well, okay, well then the happiness of the mom and dad dictates the health of the family. That's not quite right either. That leaves out our kids that we're need to be a part of that. And so for me, it's like just simplicity. Well, love at home. Then we should have that includes everyone who plays a part in the joy that should be a collective effort of joy. Sure, led by the mom. Sure, led by the dad. Led, uh, hopefully, leading kids to also be leaders and bringing that to the home. I'm just one of those guys that messaging is crucial. And what type of messaging are we giving our kids? What type of messaging are we giving each other? And lots of guys, I know what's going to happen when I make that post. Well, Joe, it's just a thing we say. It's just a joke. Don't take it so seriously. But when a dude is struggling to make his wife happy, and maybe he's going, that mentality, if he's struggling, he he, he will suddenly disappear behind what do they call it? Stoic, but it's called numb, bro. It's the numb is the new stoic, and that's when your guy will start disappearing behind a mask, and then eventually, or hopefully not, but disappear in general. And so, I am a big proponent of proper messaging. And well, how do you come up with this? Well, I just sit and think about it. What is the message I want to say? What do I want people to learn and to think and to feel and to act? So yeah, but I mean, people will want to argue with me about this, that, and the other. I just know what I see in the groups, bro. I just know what I see in our groups, and what I see in the data, and what we permit, we promote. You know, and if we're going to promote, or I'm sorry, permit some of this language and some of these to continually be out there perpetuating stigma, it's just going to get worse. So if I have an obligation to, hopefully, especially with I Love You, Bro, we have an obligation to educate and empower people to not necessarily make these life changes, but just to make little tweaks and some of the way we can just be better, moving forward.
Well, I like that because like that's an issue that we have in society is because message, like you said, messaging it sways everything. Like something we've talked about that we've kind of gone against recently is man up. Like that's
I hate that word,
big
bro.
issue with men nowadays. Like we've been talking about that all month long. Like that it creates this like in your head, like, well, am I not man enough for this? Like, no, like I hate those two words.
I freaking hate those words. I would say man up is probably the worst one to me. There's a whole laundry list of statements that I disapprove of myself, but it's just not it's not healthy. It's not what's going to make Aaron come off of the ledge. Imagine, again, I go to Aaron and I say, man up. Well, Joe, that's that's not an appropriate um, uh, comparison. Yes, it is. Because the assumption should be whoever is following your page or whoever's on your website or using your app, the assumption should be that there are many who are struggling. And and if your message is man up, then that person, everybody, all of us up here and even in here, we're on our own proverbial ledges. And when you come to me with messaging like man up, then you are not only not helping, you're actually pushing. You're giving me a helpful nudge, in the wrong direction. So
Well, I think that
I
statement
agree.
leads more questions than anything. It's like, what does that even mean?
what does it mean, man?
Yeah.
Like what is like?
And then
I think with the whole lions on sheep thing, like they have a completely different definition of what a man should be versus like,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it goes all into that. But yeah, it's if we could change that in society, I think we could change a lot, and that would be a big factor in things.
Yep, and what was I going to say here? Oh, the whole man up, because you said you brought up stats, right? So 75% of men that negative self-talk is the big thing, right? So when you tell somebody who's already talking bad about themselves to man up, they're already, well, see, it just proves me right that I'm not man enough, that I'm not, and it just negative self-talk just continues to,
Compile.
to compile. And so, but yeah, no, and all this stuff. I love talking with you. I really do, Joe. You're
I love
great,
talking with
man.
you guys too. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have lots of there are lots of issues, and we're all complex, we're all unique, and our issues are a little different. I mean, when these guys come and check in, there's 20 different things they can check, and honestly, that the list could be forever long on different challenges these guys are experiencing. I mean, one of the questions we have on our check-in is, what emotions are you experiencing? And the number one emotion these guys are feeling is number one is shame, or I should say ashamed. And then right after that, their anxiety, anxious is right after that. And I mean, I think shame is about 52%. So that feeling shamed when they come to group. And then the other question, what challenges you're facing? Oh, negative self-worth. They aren't necessarily the same thing, but they work in tandem together clearly. But what the shame and I should say the negative self-talk, they're attached to all of the other challenges these guys are facing. So, okay, fine. So if they check the box financials, well, look, I don't have a job. I don't make enough money. I hate on myself. I don't bring enough, I don't have enough value, or if they're clicking grief. Oh, my wife died. I can't get over it. So therefore I have no value. I'm, bringing people down. So shame and negative self-talk are attached to literally every other life, addiction to, you name it, loneliness, all of them are attached. It's clear and evident that absolutely negative self-talk is the number one thing we're all experiencing. And having said that, like you were saying, why are you leading with man up? But what I do know is what I knew nothing about mental health on that overpass, but I think I Love You Bro was a good start in the right direction. That type of messaging.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're basically at time. So I just wanted to say, first and foremost, thank you for coming back on. We absolutely love having you on. That's why we asked you to come back on, because just these raw um, dialogue between us, and then the stats and everything that you give to from your experience and the I Love You Bro project, it just helps to solidify what we're talking about.
Yes.
And like, you're like, oh my gosh, when you bring stats up like that, like, so majority of men are feeling what I'm feeling. Oh, I'm not alone. Like, it's just
Isn't
like,
that something?
you're like, wow, I guess everybody else is like, because when we start talking about it, like, oh, you're going through that, I'm going through that. Oh, you have that addiction, I too. Like, it's crazy, because we all just want to, stick to our own, and we're so convinced that we're the only one dealing with it. That's what ends up
Oh
being the
yeah,
problem.
bro. The most alarming stat that I have is I'm finishing a report for the Utah Department of Health and Human Services, my annual year-end report, which is brain frying, but it forces me to really look into the data that we have for this report. The most alarming one that I saw was that when asked, I polled 125 women who have come through our I Love You Sis program, mental health workshops to support men in their mental health. Pulled 125 of them. And one of the questions on this poll is, who do you think your husband or partner or husband or the man in your life, the men who are closest in your life, who do you think they're most comfortable reaching out to when in an emotional crisis or mental health crisis? The women, 53% of them said spouse. And the reality is, when per, I think, total 6,000 surveys that I have for men, it's actually the least selected is spouse at 13%. And so what it does show is women think that the men are going to reach out to them if they're struggling. Or they think that they are the first responder, in their husbands or the dads or whoever's the closest dominant male in their life. They think that they're the most trusted person that these men are going to come to. And so by no news is good news. Whereas really only 13% of men are comfortable reaching out to their spouse when in emotional or mental health crisis. To me, it's heartbreaking. It's staggering to think about. But it's a place where we need to start having some freaking conversations.
Yeah.
And we go from there, though. I appreciate you guys always having me on, bros.
Yeah, of course.
We love you, man. Thank you.
Love you, bros.
And we always ask, but they can find you a Love You Bro project if they want to reach out to you, right?
Yeah. Yep. ALoveYouBroProject.org is our website. Has all of our information. If you don't live in Utah, where all our services are, has some good best practices on there. Yeah, honestly, it's just, I want to say, like everybody else, you are not alone. I know that doesn't resonate well when we're hyper focused, tunnel vision on the challenge that we're experiencing or the emotion that we're experiencing at the time. But it is absolutely, like you were saying, you quite literally are not alone, bros. It's gosh, you are not. And through your not aloneness, you can feel start to feel some level of validation, and own those emotions for what they are, know that they're there, and then let's freaking go through these struggles together. You don't need to own them alone, And so that's the whole I Love You Bro project, man, is you don't have to be there and deal with all this crap alone. You have people who will race to help you. They will race to come to your aid. Not lift everything for you, but they will come help you. So we put in the work for ourselves. We show up, and it's a freaking beautiful, awesome thing, man. What can I say? I love you, bros.
Love you, man.
Love it too.
All right. Everyone listening, we love you too. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.